Okay. Okay. Why are you not playing? Okay, it's playing now. Ooh, but it's not looping. Why aren't you looping? Are you looping now? Okay. We're gonna give it a few minutes. So stream officially will start at 6 o'clock. So I'm a broken man coming from Junk Synchron. I don't know if you're a broken man, but your card is really good. I'm almost to the Synchro era. The next competitive overview video is going to be placed in 2008. And I think Starter Deck Yusei is the name of it that Junk Synchron gets released. So it's going to at least be featured in some part in the future. I'm real excited about the 2008 metagame video, but that's a month or two away. Getting the tea ready. The tea and water. Talking to the microphone. Set up. And the cat video is looping, thankfully. What bar did you open? What bar? Oh, I didn't open a bar. I opened a drawer to get the tea. Gotta get the tea. Anyway. Welcome to Cat Stream. Very exciting. Wow. I don't know when it happened, but we are officially over 9,000 subscribers. I guess there was a dump or big influx somehow? I really don't know. That's real exciting. Poggers from Artificial Allium? Allium like the flower? But I'm excited. Almost to 10k. Almost is a 9/10, but 9/10 is a pretty good amount. I guess it's 9.018%. Or cute cat. Yeah, cute cat. Hey, Martin. Hello, Tulio Bednarkzuk Piscine Misco Solaire. Hello. I'm sorry, Martin. It's just been so busy. I started working full time and it just eats up so much time. I wish I had more time to interact with people and more time to be productive, and it's just hard. I'm just never online. I'm always away from the computer, it seems. Okay. But 6 o'clock. Today we're going to be going over the Duelist of the Roses and Stairway to the Destined Duel promotional cards. From Andre Lichtenwald? Or Andre Lichtenwald. Hello there. No worries, no need to apologize, but you can message me whenever. Okay, I'll try to do that when able. So, Duelist of the Roses, Stairway to the Destined Duel. Eagle-eyed viewers will notice that I should have actually covered Duelist of the Roses promotional cards like last video, or maybe even earlier since they came out in February, but they go along with the Stairway to the Destined Duel promotional cards, and that's one of the reasons why they haven't been featured yet. That and I forgot. But we're gonna transition. Okay, and where are they? So there's actually a new tier now. Aren't those cards incredibly rare? Yes. Wow, I've never heard my name slaughtered that much. Oh, I'm sorry. Adam, hello. I really tried. Okay. First card up, though, tonight is going to be Alpha, the Magnet Warrior. Earth Attribute, level 4. Rock, normal monster. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma meld as one to form a powerful monster. 1400 attack, 1700 defense. So this is going to be the first card featured in our brand new tier, which is going to be Acceptable in Archetype. And I think that this is a turning point in the game. Not this set in general, but a lot of the game is starting to move in the direction of dedicated decks rather than all the good stuff goes into one deck. And I think Acceptable in Archetype is going to be one of those untiered tiers that's going to help catch in, because people are going to play their favorite archetype or their favorite deck no matter what, and this is assuming that you want to play the best version of that deck. So there are some feasible Magnet Warrior decks that you could do, mainly because of the Electromagnetic Warriors and just normal monster support. It makes them okay. So they're all going to be going in that tier. Spoiler. So following Alpha is Beta, the Magnet Warrior. Earth Attribute, level 4. Rock, normal. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma meld as one to form a powerful monster. We read that before. 1700 attack, 1600 defense. And finally, the third one in the series, Gamma, the Magnet Warrior. Earth Attribute, level 4, Rock, normal. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma meld as one to form a powerful monster. 1500 attack, 1800 defense. I guess Beta's the best, it's got the most attack. Yeah, they all have the same flavor text. They're like the Ojamas, for some reason. I think that this is a little cool, though, that the flavor text is telling you how they combine. What year are we in? We are in 2003. I think we're February 2003. I wonder what the laziest flavor text is. Ooh. That's a good question. Maybe one of the normal Cleafort monsters? because the Clees had like computer text as their numbers, but it's a good question. Anyway, I like the design of the Magnet Warriors. They're better than normal monsters because at least they have something going for them as far as lore, and they sort of tell you how to play the game. I guess the next card is not Valkyrie though. Next up is Harpys Feather Duster. So, normal spell, very simple effect. Destroy all spell and traps your opponent controls. Easily worth considering today. I mean, this is Heavy Storm, slightly better or slightly worse, it's hard to tell. But Heavy Storm's on the ban list and Harpys Feather Duster isn't. I just want to point out the artwork on this card. That trap card is House of Adhesive Tape, which is out in the TCG, that's not the problem. But it's actually formatted like a monster card in the OCG, the old OCG formatting. And then it's still being destroyed by the Feather Duster, even though it would be a monster? I don't know, it's just a weird error. Ooh. Check this out, is the entire text on the Mech Knight monster. That is funny. Yeah, the computer text was a gimmick, and like, what is it? The Evil Swarm Heliotrope has backwards text. That one's a little cool. Okay, next up, Sinister Serpent. Water attribute, level 1, reptile, effect. During your standby phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can add it to your hand. Also banish one Sinister Serpent from your graveyard during your opponent's next end phase. You can only use this effect of Sinister Serpent once per turn. 300 attack, 250 defense. So this card has had effect changing errata, and that is the bar for it to be considered a design mistake. And this is so sad because I think Sinister Serpent was perfectly playable and not that broken the way that it was. Just getting to your next standby phase is a pretty big hurdle for a lot of decks as the game continues to get faster. And like Volcanic Shell does it instantly. So there might even be a card that's better than Sinister Serpent. But it's so sad that it had to get changed because I like the card. And finally, Valkyrie, the Magna Warrior, which is not a Magnet Warrior, I guess. Earth attribute, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Rock effect, cannot be normal summoned or set, must first be special summoned from your hand by tributing one Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Beta the Magnet Warrior, and Gamma the Magnet Warrior from your hand and or field. You contribute this card and then target one Alpha the Magnet Warrior, Beta the Magnet Warrior, and Gamma the Magnet Warrior in your graveyard, special summon them. That is not a quick effect. 3,500 attack, 3,850 defense. This card is real strong. And like the only use I've ever seen for it is that you can make Evil Hero Dark Gaia, and then at the time it was the best rock that you could do because it's just got very high attack points. But I think that's the best uses as a gimmick. I don't know if you would even play it in the Archetype deck, because at least the normal monsters have Unexpected Iron Rabbit and some other support that makes them more playable. But it's just a little goofy. Valkyrie is 100% a gimmick. I agree. And Sinister Serpent, when it was a free card discard every turn, it was good because it would be a +1 every single turn. Now it might be a +1 once or twice. I think it could have come back years ago and it wouldn't have been a big deal, like a few of the other cards that we're actually going to talk about today. Is that a chronomaly? Is that a chronomaly monster? What's this out-of-place artifact doing here? They're not released for quite some time. But with that, I'm going to be going on to the next set. Okay, next set is going to be Legacy of Darkness. That Mono Blue Tron video is in my watch later list and has been for so long. Yeah, that was Thor. Thor's the cat. There's a lot of cards that just stay on the ban list for way too long. I think it'd be a little bit weird to say in the moment when they should have come off, because hindsight is 20/20. But if I were running the ban list, I would have done things a little bit different, at least a few times. Bring the cat back for a second. Title card. And bam, we got the next list. Konami just wants the new stuff to be overhauled, or to be overshadowed by some old card that everyone already had. Yeah, that's the biggest problem with the game, as far as you have a conflict of interest, you have some perverse incentives, I think is the economic term, where you need to be marketing new cards, and it just destroys a lot of the potential the game has. Like, one of the casualties of this, I think, is older formats are just not supported as much as they should be. I think that would be really fun, is just holding retro tournaments every now and then. Maybe not serious, not on the YCS level, but just having a dedicated space where people can play with their older cards and maybe older rulings even, but that might be hard to keep track of. A lot of people have nostalgia. I have nostalgia for GOAT too, but there's a lot more than just GOAT out there that I think is missing. That's one of the reasons I'm enjoying this series so much, though, is you just get to go through all the cards. I think Mystic Miner, I think there's many reasons why Yu-Gi-Oh! Is fast-paced, and the power creep seems to be hyperbolic at times in Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to Magic the Gathering. No set rotation, yeah, and no legacy formats. And it's a little sad. But I think the player base can definitely come together. When I get a little bigger, it might be fun to host online tournaments, but we're not there yet. Okay, we're moving on to Legacy of Darkness. So, first card is a secret rare. So, for those that don't know, this card is actually 0/0/0 in the set. And then 001 is the first card in the actual set. Like, there's a secret rare before the set starts and after the set starts and after the set ends. So there's 102 cards in here. Someone is claiming ownership of Yatagarasu? Ah, the burb. It's real cool. It's like this raven, and all the spirit monsters are based on yokai. This was the yokai type in Japan. But there's some weird stuff. OTK burb. No, it's not an OTK burb. It's an uninteractive combo deck burb. It's many turns to peck you to death burb. But what does Yatagarasu do? What's all the hype about? Yatagarasu, wind attribute, level 2, Fiend, Spirit, and then it has the Spirit text. This monster cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand. During the end phase of the turn, it is normal summoned or flipped face up. Then the actual effect, when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, they skip their next draw phase. 200 attack, 100 defense. I'd say it's a design mistake, but it's come off the ban list. I don't think you should ever run this card. It is not good in the competitive metagame, but it is format defining in the meta at one point. So I think that's as high as it should go. Yatagarasu is solitary burb. It's not healthy for the game. Very tempted to put it in design mistake just out of spite. Next up, Dark Ruler Hades, or Hades. It looks like it's a typo where it should be Hades or it's being censored, but no, it's supposed to be a pun on Des, as in death. Also King of the Underworld. Okay, by popular demand of one, we're gonna put the bird in design mistake, just out of spite. Which makes sense, it's purple. Dark Ruler Hades. Dark attribute, level 6, Fiend, effect, cannot be special summoned from the graveyard. Negate the effects of monsters destroyed by battle with Fiend type monsters you control. 2450, 1600. I'm gonna say this card is good. The cannot be special summoned from the graveyard though. That's a pretty big restriction because that's how you cheat out most cards. I know there's some support specifically in this set to make it a little easier to summon, but it's hard to tribute summon in 2003. Especially without the monarchs or any good payoffs. Des should have been a mini villain there. Don't recognize that. Yeah. Dark Ruler no more. Yeah, this is Dark Ruler Hades. It's featured in a ton of different card artworks, and if this were a lore tier list, it'd be way higher. But it's not. I'm thinking the cannot be special summoned from the graveyard though is flavor. Like, this is the Lord of the Underworld, so of course he can't be special summoned from the graveyard. I think it's just a little bit too balanced. Yeah, you'd expect it to be a lot better. One saving grace is, and I'm planning on doing this probably next year for Yu-Gi-Oh! Nostalgia Month, maybe the following year, but I want to do some character decks with deck masters, and I want to specifically have Dark Ruler Hades and, well, Freed the Matchless General that's down here as deck masters, because they're like rivals, and it'd be character, and it'd be fun. Yeah, it's 2450 attack. It's not as good as Summon Skull, unfortunately, as far as just raw power, and that might not be enough to save it. It is slightly higher than Genzo. I guess it's the strongest level 6 effect monster at this point, for what that's worth. And it's a beneficial effect too, so. Just think it's sad. Next up, Dark Bolter the Terrible. Dark attribute, level 5, Fiend, fusion, effect. Materials are Possessed Dark Soul and Frontier Wiseman. A fusion summon of this monster can only be conducted with the above fusion material monsters. When a normal spell card is activated, negate the activation by paying 1,000 life points. The effect of an effect monster that this card destroys as a result of battle is negated. 2,000 attack, 1,200 defense. This card's good. This card's real good. And just take a look at the OCG artwork. They cut out so much when they regionalized this card. But this card is easily meta. I think this card can't be brought out with instant fusion. If it could, then it'd be an instant fusion target, and I'd put it even worth considering today, but this is a negate. This is a negate spell cards, negate monster effects that you can bring out with Metamorphosis, I believe, because Metamorphosis is not treated as a fusion summon. But this card saw a lot of meta play. Very strong. You don't bring it out naturally, though. Next up, Lesser Fiend. Dark Attribute, level 5, Fiend effect. Important text. This card is always treated as an Archfiend card. If we look at the OCG artwork, you can see why. It's got like horns, and it's got wings, and it's got goat head. Man, they really butchered this card. Banish any monster destroyed by battle by this card. 2,100 attack, 1,000 defense. Yeah, Dark Bolter the Terrible is GOAT legal. Anything before Cybernetic Revolution is GOAT legal, so everything for the next 3 years is GOAT legal. And it's all playing GOAT. Maybe not as much as Guilt of the D-Knight, but real strong card. Everything here is GOAT legal. So, because this card is an Archfiend, I'm assuming that it's an Archfiend in GOAT, and I think it's actually worth running, or at least experimenting, with your Lesser Fiend and some of the other weaker Archfiends, because Pandemonium is a really strong card in the context of GOAT format. That's a lot of card advantage that you can use to your advantage. So I'm thinking about using Lesser Fiend when I start building some stuff in GOAT. I don't think it's an Archfiend in the TCG GOAT format. I have no idea if it should be. You could say it's a card to consider. I'm going to rule that Summon Skull and Lesser Fiend and Fiend Skull Dragon and a whole bunch of other cards like Axe of Despair are Archfiends in my version of GOAT. I don't know if that is most technically correct, but it makes sense from a parity perspective with the OCG. Next up, really weird card, Possessed Dark Soul. Dark Attribute, level 3, Fiend, effect monster. You contribute this card. Take control of all face-up level 3 or lower monsters your opponent kills. 1,200 attack, 800 defense. So this card was good in Duel Links. I think we can just put it comfortably in filler though. Ooh. It is the Dark Soul of Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know. Error, YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, it is a fun tour guide target. If it were a quick effect, it'd be better. Stream might go down tonight. Getting some error messages on my side that the stream might be down. Anti-Flunder card. I don't know. I think we're back now. It said excellent condition. Sorry about the hiccup. Anti-Flunder card. I don't think you're ever using this for something useful. It's a very interesting side deck card. I think Filler Outclassed is the best place to put it, though. I don't think Konami's behind it. I'm seeing the stream. Okay, I think we're back. It just gave me like a big yellow text that said stream is unhealthy. But yeah, Possessed Dark Soul. Interesting card. I like the design behind it. It's almost useful. Next up, Winged Minion. And I got the OCG artwork. Like half of the set has had changes. Most of them censorship, some regionalization. Because this was a demon-themed set in Japan. Actually, this is a combination of two different sets. Which is why there's like the big chunk of spirit monsters at the end. But a lot of the Fiend monsters had to have their artwork changed. And even after the change, Winged Minion still has like the vertical cleft lip that makes it look like his mouth opens vertically instead of horizontally. It is uncomfortable artwork after the censorship. But this is not an art reviewing stream. Not yet. Maybe one day. What does Winged Minion do? Winged Minion, Dark Attribute, level 2, Fiend, effect, tribute this face-up card, select one face-up Fiend-type monster on the field, increase the attack and defense of the monster by 700 points as long as it remains face-up on the field. And it's got 700 attack, 700 defense. Kinda sus. I like the flavor. I like the flavor a lot. That this is giving the strength to one of your other fiends. I don't think this is ever useful, though. When are you giving up your board presence for a boost? It is a permanent boost so long as you don't get flipped face down or returned to the hand or sent to the graveyard or anything, but just not a very impactful effect. Next up, Skull Knight number 2. Dark Attribute, level 3, Fiend, effect. If you tribute summon a Fiend-type monster by tributing this monster, special summon one Skull Knight number 2 from your deck. Then, shuffle your deck. 1000 attack, 1200 defense. No, the stream is lagging again? I'm gonna give it a minute. Maybe it is Konami messing with it. Thanks for updating. Anyway, Skull Knight number 2. Combination of being Dark Attribute, level 3, Fiend, is a tour guide target. Is that enough to be considered today? Maybe. But this effect would trigger in the graveyard when it's tributed. So this is a tour guide target that would actually get its effect off if you tributed a Fiend monster. And that actual effect of giving you back some board presence, that's pretty strong. I don't know where this goes, but all those things together make this card pretty appealing to me. I think it's worth considering today somewhere. Maybe not worth considering today, but maybe worth considering in general at some point. One of those cards to keep in the back of your mind. Next up, Ryu Clown. Dark Attribute, level 2, Fiend, effect. When this card is summoned, including flip summon and special summon, select one face-up monster on the field and change its battle position. 800 attack, 500 defense. So you can actually use this clown and clown control. if you wanted to. You can go ahead and swap the positions of your other clowns. I don't know if that's ever useful, but I'm gonna say filler outclassed. It's an interesting effect. It's just very marginal, and I like how it triggers off of any summon. It's sort of like Tsukiyomi. Tsukiyomi is actually in the set, isn't she? No, Tsukiyomi is not in this set yet. It's much worse, though. You much prefer to be face down because then you can turn off monster effects and you can get over stuff, and there's a whole bunch of other benefits. Next up, Twin-Headed Wolf. Dark Attribute, level 4, Fiend, effect. When there is another face-up Fiend-type monster on your side of the field, negate the effect of flip effect monsters destroyed by this card as a result of battle. 1500 attack, 1000 defense. This card's decent. Can I explain what I think by filler outclassed? I think filler outclassed is cards that either have something which is directly better than them in relatively the same time period, or cards which you could technically use but they're not great. Good on release I think are playable cards that maybe were not featured in the metagame. Meta at one point, self-explanatory. This is the borderline tier of cards that is somewhere between good and bad. It is very middle of the road. These effects are marginal, but the card's not that bad. You probably wouldn't use it in a competitive deck. It might be too situational. It might be a side deck card. Cards that might be useful one day. Decent metamorphosis target for the clown. Anyway, Opticops. Dark Attribute, level 4, Fiend. A one-eyed giant that serves the Dark Ruler Hades. It skewers its enemies with its sharp horn, shattering them to pieces. 1800 attack, 1700 defense. So this is like one of the strongest monsters in the game if you just look at the attack and defense points and combine them too. That's 3500 on a level 4. That's pretty strong. I think Luster Dragon gets the same, and Luster Dragon has 1900 attack points a little bit later, but that's pretty good at this point in the game. I like how it's referencing Dark Ruler Hades. Speaking of which, next up, we got Bark of Dark Ruler. Normal trap. If a Fiend-type monster you control battles, during the damage step, pay life points in multiples of 100 points. Then target the opponent's battling monster. That opponent's monster loses that much attack and defense until the end of this turn. Yeah, this card's cool. I like it. I'm going to say good on release, because this is an option that you can use with your Fiend deck. I don't think you're running a Fiend deck yet, but this card is sort of like Shrink. It might be better than Shrink. It might also be worse, because you only have to get over by like 100 points. But you could potentially do more damage with it. You can push damage, you can get through walls, you can do a lot of different stuff. It's a pretty strong battle trap I like. It's obviously worse than the Bite of Dark Ruler. That's a good one, Squid. Next up, Fatal Abacus. Fatal Abacus. Continuous trap. Each time one monster is sent from the field to the graveyard, inflict 500 points of damage per card to the respective card owner's life points. Card reads weird. I don't know. Is Fatal Abacus useful? I don't know if it goes in bad or it goes in filler outclassed, because this is a pretty marginal burn effect. Theoretically, you're running a deck without many monsters and your opponent has the monsters. I just don't see the utility. Similar to Life Absorbing Machine. Trap card, continuous. During your standby phase, Gain life points equal to half of the total life points you paid during your last turn. Very interesting OCG artwork, by the way. This card does not work the way you think it does. So if you pay 1,000 life points and you have one copy of this, you get 500 back. But if you have 3 copies of this, then you would gain 1,500 back, because they all trigger off of the same instance of paying life points. It doesn't half it 3 times. Yeah, the TCG artwork, a little distressing. The OCG artwork, very distressing. Would Fatal Abacus be triggered with Link and Synchro Summoning? I think it would be. I think Fatal Abacus would be triggered by Link and Synchros. I don't know if that makes the card any better. A lot of old cards read weird, sadly. Can you make the OCG artwork bigger? Maybe? There we go. We got horns and things. I don't think that's the real reason, though. I think nudity is the reason why this card got changed. Because the TCG artwork... Here, I'll get the card on screen. The TCG artwork gives him pants. And also changes his skin tone a lot. Gonna put him away before the stream gets killed, because I know people are watching me. Instead, we're going to talk about next card, which is the Puppet Magic of Dark Ruler. Normal spell, target 1 Fiend monster in your graveyard. Banish face-up monsters you control whose total levels exactly equal the level of that monster, then special summon it. I like this card a lot. So one of the things that you can do is, this doesn't tribute, so you can use the Puppet Magic of Dark Ruler with cards like Archfiend's Roar that prevent you from tributing. I guess all 4 of these Dark Ruler Hades cards are together. Seems to be a trend. I like this card, though. It's very cool, and I love the design, and I think it's like very close to the right power level. Good night, Martin. On Soul Absorbing Machine, the TCG gave him hair. Oh yeah. After this, we have Soul Demolition. Continuous Trap. You can only activate this card's effect when you have a Fiend-type monster on your side of the field. Makes sense with the artwork. I mean, you gotta have the Dark Ruler to crush the spirits. Pay 500 life points to use this effect. Both players select 1 monster card from their opponent's graveyards. Remove the selected cards from play. I think this is just filler. I guess we could put it sort of close to the Dark Ruler, though. It's symmetric. You require a Fiend, and it costs you life points. And just feels like a very filler card. Here's another card that I guess I'm pulling up the artwork again, because I did not see this when I was a kid. But if we look at this artwork, I always thought this guy was wearing boxer shorts, but no, it's like he has that leather strap looking skirt that the gladiators used to wear. Anyway, What does Double Snare do? Double Snare, normal spell, destroy one face-up card on the field that has an effect that negates trap cards' effects. And this card is super narrow. I think it hits Royal Decree, I think it hits Jinzo, and that's like the only two relevant cards around the time that it was played. And despite that, it was still side deck material in meta decks. So this card actually saw some meta success. Hey, I don't have much time to hang out, but I love the content. Thank you. Also, what is Kaga reads? Well, I'm Kaga, and I'm reading every card text so that I don't miss things. Me and my brother used to get around 1,000 cards, shuffle them together, divide them by 2, and play with those 2 decks. Man, you must have had a lot of fun. Double Snare being a ruling's nightmare? You could destroy Trap Stun. Wow. I don't think it's fast enough to destroy Trap Stun. I think now you could hit Sky Scourge Invisil and like a couple other cards, but I don't know, it's such a narrow counter that I can't believe it actually saw some competitive success. This card can destroy any card that negates everything. I guess it could. Ooh, I gotta read the card carefully. Destroy one face-up card on the field that has an effect that negates trap cards' effects. Oh, does that mean that this card can hit Shockmaster even if Shockmaster didn't declare trap cards? What if the card only negates one trap card effect? You're right, this is a ruling's nightmare. Do we... Oh. Maybe it's just a design mistake. I don't know how it works against Shockmaster. I don't know if anyone's ever tested this. Going off script to look up the rulings for this card. Okay, so you can destroy Jinzo, Royal Decree, Tyrant Dragon. Tyrant Dragon's in this set. Sorcerer of Dark Magic, Fiend Skull Dragon, also in this set. The Dragon's Bead. Oh, those are the previous OCG ones. A face-up, the Dragon's Bead, Tyrant Dragon, Fiend Skull Dragon, Jinzo, Royal Decree, Sorcerer of Dark Magic, etc. can be destroyed by the effect of Double Snare. Also, Ryu Senshi can be targeted by the effect of Double Snare. However, Double Snare will be negated by the effect of Ryu Senshi. That negates the effect of spell cards. Furthermore, Double Snare can only destroy face-up cards. Okay, so Ryu Senshi has a trigger effect? No, a quick effect that would negate trap cards. So I think that's anything that does negate or does have the potential to negate gets hit by Double Snare? I think I'm just gonna... This card causes confusion. It's going in the design mistake tier. Yes. We're not going to worry about it all that much. But this card might actually be meta if you can get around things that do Omni negate. Of course, if you're getting around things that Omni negate, then it might be negated too. Macabre. Oh no. There's a lot of cards that if it's quick or activated abilities, or quick or activated effects that would negate trap cards make the card a lot more playable. I was not expecting to have this sort of crisis. I guess I fell for one trap, out of one and into the other, out of the blue into the fire. Anyway, next up is Freed the Matchless General. Earth Attribute, level 5, Warrior, effect, negate any spell effects that target this card, and if you do, destroy that spell card. During your draw phase, instead of conducting your normal draw, you can add one level 4 or lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. This card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. 2300 attack, 1700 defense. I think this card is good on release. I like it a lot. I like it so much. I think that this card is not meta worthy because it takes a tribute. It's a little hard to bring out. I know you can cheat it out in a couple different ways, but more importantly, there's a card, the Reinforcement of the Army, which is in the same set that does the same thing, only better. But I still really like this card. I think it's an appropriate power level for the time. Same thing with Throwstone Unit, actually. This is an Earth Attribute, level 4, Warrior, effect. Target tribute one warrior type monster in your side of the field to destroy one face-up monster on the field whose defense is equal to or less than the attack of Throwstone Unit. 900 attack, 2000 defense. I think you can tribute itself. I really like this card. I'm gonna put it next to Freed because this is removal. I don't think it's once per turn. It's not once per turn. What a card name. Throwstone Unit. Yeah. I really like the idea behind this card. We have a very interesting set the more that I look at it. Next up, Marauding Captain. Earth Attribute, level 3. Warrior, effect. Your opponent cannot target warrior monsters for attacks, except this one. When this card is normal summoned, you can special summon one level 4 or lower monster from your hand. 1200 attack, 400 defense. This card was meta in Goki format. I think this card is worth considering today. There's a lot of fun things that you can do with this card in Goat format specifically, because Sacred Crane's in Goat, so you can normal summon your Marauding Captain and then special summon a Sacred Crane and then draw a card off of that. One of the things that you could do in early synchro days was you could normal summon Marauding Captain and special summon a level 3 or 4 tuner, and then you get access to a whole bunch of different extra deck things. Like a level 4 tuner that would get you Black Rose. Level 3 tuner would get you some nice level 6s. You could run Junk Synchron with it even. Make some nice level 6s. I think this card is great. Oh, and if you have 2 Marauding Captains out at the same time, then your opponent cannot declare an attack. Next up, Ryu Senshi. Just mentioned this card. Earth Attribute, level 6. Warrior, Fusion, effect. Materials are Warrior Digrapher and Spirit Ryu. A fusion summon of this card can only be done with the above fusion materials. When a normal trap is activated, quick effect. You can pay 1000 life points, negate that effect. This card must be face up on the field to activate and resolve this effect. Negate the effects of any spell that targets this card and destroy it. 2000 attack, 1200 defense. Very interesting card. So this is one of the cards that you would seriously bring out with Metamorphosis. And that's why it was meta at one point, but it might also just be in the gimmick tier now. Can't seriously bring it out with much. We'll see how stacked the meta at one point tier is by the end. and maybe it'll get bumped up. Very interesting card though. I like how it has some inherent protection. There's also some later lore implications with Ryu Senshi and the Warrior Digrapher, and we can compare it to Ki Ryu and Dark Blade fusing together, or Dark Blade and Pitch Black Dragon, I think, actually fused together. It's very interesting. Speaking of Warrior Digrapher, Earth Attribute, level 4, Warrior, normal, the warrior who can manipulate dragons. Nobody knows his mysterious past. 1700 attack, 1600 defense. If this card were a lore tier list, it'd be way up top. But I think at this point, it's just okay. There's nothing special going for the Warrior Digrapher. Manipulative jerk. I don't think it's like that. There's actually Dragon Manipulator in the set too. It's right here. Actually next to the Unexpected Die. This is followed by Mysterious Guard, Earth Attribute, level 3, Spellcaster, Effect, Flip, target one face-up monster on the field, and if you control a face-up warrior type monster, you can target one additional face-up monster on the field. Return the first target to the top of the deck, then return the additional target, if any, to the hand if you still control a face-up warrior type monster. Whew. The Mysterious Guard artwork goes hard. This card is interesting. This is sort of like Ryza's effect. I think we're just going to put in good on release. This is a pretty strong non-destruction removal option. Yeah, exactly. I think it's better than Hane Hane. I think it might be better than Maneater Bug, depending on your specific deck. And if you can get the extra one off, that's even better. I think it's just appropriate power level for when it's released. Next up, Frontier Wiseman. Earth Attribute, level 3, Spellcaster, Effect, negate any spell effects that target a warrior type monster you control, and if you do, destroy that card. 1600 attack, that's really strong for a level 3 at this point, by the way. 800 defense. I think there's going to be a lot of filler outclassed in this set. Penguin Soldier was released in Starter Deck Joey, which was, I think, like 2 months before this set. It might be 4 months before this set. But it was also released in 2003. The Penguin Soldier is out at this point. Is the Mysterious Guard better than Penguin Soldier? Yes and no. That being said, Exiled Force is probably better. Exiled Force, Earth Attribute, level 4, Warrior, Effect. You contribute this card to target one monster on the field, destroy that target. 1000 attack, 1000 defense. Very simple, very strong effect is they get something out and you pop it. It's so good. This is like one of the best targets for Giant Rat because you can just deal with a threat. The card was at 1 for so long, but I don't think it's worth considering now. Next up, the Hunter with 7 weapons. And if you actually take a peek at the OCG artwork, the club on the left side is replaced with like a rifle stock. So this card had a little bit of censorship, gotta remove guns, but we can keep the giant crossbow on his arm. But what does this monster do? The Warrior with 7 weapons, Earth Attribute, level 3, Warrior, Effect. When this card is normal summoned, declare one type of monster. When battling that type of monster, increase the attack of this card by 1000 points during damage calculation. 1000 attack, 600 defense. Gets under gravity bind. Pretty interesting effect. 7 weapons is too many. 7 weapons is not enough because there's like 25 or 26 types at this point in the game. I think this is a cool tech card that you'd see in side decks before people really know what they're doing. 0 out of 7 stars. No, I like it. I like it. I think it's an appropriate power level, but I could also see it being down 1 tier. Next up, Shadow Tamer. Earth attribute, level 3. Earth attribute looks very much like a dark card. Warrior effect. This card is always treated as an Archfiend card. I think because it has Demon Tamer is its Japanese name. Flip. Target 1 Fiend type monster on your flip. Target 1 Fiend type monster your opponent controls. Take control of that target until the end phase. 800 attack, 700 defense. Hey, this can trigger on your opponent's turn. With mini cards, it does have the superior OCG artwork. I'm just gonna say it's a filler card. It's just okay. I mean, if you put this in your side deck, it's sorta okay. And it's got more or less a clone with Dragon Manipulator. Earth attribute, level 3, warrior, effect, flip. Take control of 1 face-up dragon type monster on your opponent's side of the field until the end of the end phase. 700 attack, 800 defense. But why is it mandatory? Ooh, is that ever a problem? Until the end of the end phase. Yeah, that's very, very specific. Not the beginning of the end phase. I have no idea what card would trigger during the beginning of the end phase. That might mean that this card has an edge, but I don't know. Next up, the A forces. I think A stands for Allied based on the Japanese name for the card. I don't know why it was abbreviated. There's plenty of room on the card. You could have written the Allied forces. Maybe they didn't want to bring up like World War II era alliances or something. I don't know. Maybe it's political. You don't want to invoke it. Oh. Bombo Dogless says A-team, as in they didn't want to invoke the A-team? Squid, the Axis forces. Yeah, they are the A-team. Oh, like with Mr. T. I don't know if that's the intended meaning behind it. Maybe it is. Maybe someone at Konami is a big Mr. T fan. Anyway, this continuous spell. All warrior monsters you control gain 200 attack for each warrior or spellcaster monster you control. I think this is supposed to be like humans band together. Humans number 1. Especially if you look at the artwork. But it's just so marginal. 200 points, so you could get like 1,000 points. I guess if you're giving your whole board 1,000 points, you'd be okay. But it's real hard to get 5 warriors out. It's not like you could have 4 goat tokens. Next up, Reinforcement of the Army. Normal spell. Add 1 level 4 or lower warrior type monster from your deck to your hand. Warriors are like one of the most represented types in the game, and Reinforcement of the Army is just, I think, the best search card, the best semi-generic search card in the game. Terrible card will never see play. I mean, you're removing a card from your deck. You're going to deck out faster. Who would want to do that? And what can you even get? I guess you could get Exiled Force or Marauding Captain? So underwhelming. It's not like Array of Revealing Light, which is a field spell. Declare one type of monster. Any monster of the declared type can declare and cannot declare an attack during the turn it is normal summoned, flip summoned, or special summoned. Theoretically, this does something, but like, there's Vengeful Bog Spirit. And Vengeful Bog Spirit already is not good, but at least it hits everything. Theoretically, this is asymmetric, like you could stun your opponent, but it's just bad. Squid says, lose a card in the deck, so it's actually a -1 for reinforcement of the army. Yeah, you're losing card advantage. It would be hilarious to run this field spell in a Legacy Toon deck. I think you just run Vengeful Bog Spirit in your Toon deck if you want that. Then it slows everyone but down the one turn, and it hits everything. I know this one's searchable with Terraforming, which is a little bit better, but I don't think it's enough. Card's just underwhelming and not good. Here's a card that I actually think is pretty good, though. Maybe even underrated. We have the Warrior Returning Alive. Normal spell. Target one warrior monster in your graveyard. Add the target to your hand. So this card can hit like any level. It can hit your high level warriors. It can recycle hand traps if you have a warrior hand trap for some reason. Combo pieces, extra deck monsters. It can do it all. Specifically for warriors though. I think this card is great. It's like Rhoda, but even worse because you gotta wait for cards to be in your graveyard. I would definitely understand if it were just in meta at one point because this card has seen meta success. But I think it's still worth considering today, depending on how your combo works in your deck. Like if you're playing something. Foolish Burial plus the Warrior Returning Alive is a broken combo because you could get any warrior from your deck to your hand. That's even better than Reinforcement of the Army. Did the warrior die then? No. The warrior is coming back alive. It's not that he's dead and reborn. It's he survived the battle and now he's walking back. And that's not just any warrior. That's Marauding Captain. This is lore. I think the problem with the warrior returning alive is that it involves setup. So it's a little too slow in the modern era. Okay, I can see that. Card's real good though. Okay, I can see the point of moving it down to just meta at one point. I've seen it in different decks. Like you can use it a lot in Destiny heroes, or normal heroes, or ninjas, or there's a whole bunch of decks that like it. Welcome, Jace. Oh, I skipped a card. Silly me. I am not ready for intercepting. This is a normal trap. Target one warrior or spellcaster on the field. Change that target to face down defense position. This card's bad, Tsukiyomi. I think this is even worse than filler. I think I'd prefer to have Warrior Digrepher. Just run Book of Moon when we get Book of Moon. Next up, another card that I had trouble pronouncing as a kid. This is a feint plan. Like a feint is when you're pretending to hit something, but you don't actually hit. So like a fake hit. Normal trap. A player cannot attack face down monsters this turn. So I guess what you could do is ready for intercepting and then a feint plan. And then they can't attack your face down monsters. I don't think they'd turn into direct attacks or anything. But just really underwhelming effect. It saw a lot of play in the early days of speed duels. Unfortunately, we're only considering the main game because this is a cumulative. This might be okay in Pac-Man. Okay. Next up, I'm gonna spoil this one. I think this card is only ever gimmick tier. Emergency Provisions. It is quick play spell. Send any number of other face-up spell or traps you control to the graveyard. Gain 1,000 life points for each card sent to the graveyard this way. So this card did see a little bit of play. Competitive play. Even it got to like, I think it was at 2, it might have been even at 1 on the FNL list at one point. But you would get Ordeal of the Traveler? No. You would get the really broken draw card, and then you'd send it to the graveyard so you wouldn't get the bad effect. Really realistic artwork. Oh, I agree. It's got like even a fish on the can and like some graham crackers. Looks pretty tasty. Yeah, this card was at 2 or 1 at one point. Mirage of Nightmare. Thank you. Tip of my tongue. Yeah, so you activate Mirage of Nightmare, you draw a whole bunch of cards, you activate Emergency Provisions, and then you don't have to discard the cards. But like, Mirage of Nightmare is just such an overpowered card. If you can empty your hand fast enough, then you don't even get the downside. I think this card is only ever in gimmicks. One of the super funny things you can do is you can use this to keep extending chain links. So you can have spells that activate and resolve and get destroyed by emergency provisions so that you can get higher chain links so that you could like chain strike your opponent to death or something. I don't think it's ever useful, but it has seen some success. I love the gimmick tier because it's a bit of a cop-out, but I think that's okay. Next up, Tyrant Dragon. Fire attribute, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Dragon, effect. During your battle phase, if your opponent controls a monster after this card's first attack, this card can make a second attack. Negate any trap effects that target this card on the field, and if you do, destroy that trap. This card cannot be special summoned from the graveyard unless you tribute one dragon monster. 2900 attack, 2500 defense. This card was meta in some early formats, like one of the very few monsters that you could tribute summon out. Ooh, you could use Emergency Provisions in Bamboo Sword Engine. Right, because you could pop your own bamboo sword. Is that useful? I guess it's a quick play. I think Tyrant Dragon real cool. And it had its day in the sun, and I think that's the best part about the card. I like how a lot of these cards have a day in the sun. I think that's the best way of phrasing it. I guess Dark Bolter is probably better, though. This is followed by Spear Dragon. Wind attribute, level 4. Dragon, effect. During battle between this attacking card and a defense position monster whose defense is lower than the attack of this card, inflict the difference as battle damage to your opponent. That is so wordy for saying this card inflicts piercing damage. If this card attacks, it is changed to defense position at the end of the damage step. 1900 attack, 1000 defense. So this card, very interesting. It's like Goblin attack force, but you could actually push damage with it. I think this card's pretty good. I think it's better than Freed. I think it's very close to the power level, except like it might be power creeping Opticops. I know we already have Gemini Elf, but there's a bit of a gap between the power of those cards. We also have Spirit Ryu, Wind attribute, level 4, Dragon, effect. You can only activate this effect during your battle step. If this card battles during your turn, discard one dragon-type monster from your hand to the graveyard and increase the attack and defense of this card by 1,000 points until the end step. 1,000 attack, 1,000 defense. This is just very underwhelming. Potentially it's useful, but I don't think this is a good use of card advantage. There's much better things that you can use, like Raigeki Break, like Tribute to the Doomed, a whole bunch of other cards. Next up, the Dragon Dwelling in the Cave, not to be confused with Cave Dragon, also in the set. Wind attribute, level 4, Dragon. A huge dragon dwelling in a cave. A huge dragon dwelling in a cave. I think I just read that. It is horrible when it gets angry, although it's usually quiet. It is said to preserve certain treasures. Preserve treasure. It's weird wording. 1,300 attack, 2,000 defense. So I'm putting it next to Opticops. I guess I'm breaking up the Dark Ruler. I guess I'm not going to break up the Dark Ruler. This is the Giant Soldier of Stone stats, and that's pretty decent for the time. This is a good wall, and it's a dragon, and dragons are a little bit relevant, so. Next up, Lizard Soldier. Wind attribute, level 3, Dragon. I thought you were a lizard. A Beast Soldier. Now you sound like a Beast Warrior. A Beast Soldier derived from dragons. It is small for a dragon type. Yes, it is. Also, you're breaking the fourth wall and calling it a dragon type? Moving very quickly, this monster is an excellent strategist. This monster is an excellent strategist. Very weird card. 1,100 attack, 800 defense. We're just gonna put it in bad for now. Well, unfortunate. Next up, Fiend Skull Dragon. Wind attribute, level 5, Dragon Fusion effect. Materials are Cave Dragon and Lesser Fiend. This card is always treated as an Archfiend card. Actually really important because this is a Metamorphosis target. So if you had a level 5, then you could tribute it for Metamorphosis, bring this card out, activate Falling Down. Pretty interesting card. A fusion summon of this card can only be done by the above fusion material monsters with the above fusion material monsters. Negate the effects of flip effect monsters. Negate any trap effects that target this card on the field, and if you do, destroy that target card. And if you do, destroy that trap card. 2,000 attack, 1,200 defense. Lizard Soldier was actually one of the best targets for the Cyberdarks when those cards were first released. Yeah, before Hunter Dragon, I guess. Is it really one of the best targets? I guess I'd have to look up to see if there was any. I guess the very best level 3 dragon gets the distinction of being okay in Cyberdarks. Negate any trap effects? It's a double snare target. It is a double snare target. Man, double snare is causing problems. I didn't rate the card though. Wait. This card's real good. Don't think you can bring it out with instant fusion, but it was played alongside Dark Bolter, so. And not just because extra decks were unlimited. Next up, Cave Dragon. Wind attribute, level 4, Dragon, effect, cannot be normal summoned while you control a monster. Ooh. This card cannot declare an attack unless you control another dragon type monster. Ooh. 2,000 attack, 100 defense. So one of the things you could do is you could have Cave Dragon and the dragon dwelling in the cave next to each other. So you normal summon the Cave Dragon and then the dragon dwelling in the cave, and then it can actually attack. This card gets Summoning Sickness. but 2000 attack is a good number. I remember playing against this card, if that counts for anything. Next up, Grey Wing. Wind attribute, level 3, dragon, effect. Discard one card from your hand during the main phase 1. This card can attack twice during the battle phase of this turn. 1300 attack, 700 defense. So like Hayabusa Knight, I think, is already in the game. And that's got the stat distribution naturally. And then we'll get Mataza the Zapper later, which is just better than this card. Where did I put Spirit Ryu? Because this card is on the same level as Spirit Ryu. It's interesting, it's just expensive. Next up, Troop Dragon. Wind attribute, level 2, dragon, effect. If this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard as a result of battle, select and special summon one Troop Dragon from your deck to your side of the field. Then shuffle your deck. 700 attack, 800 defense. So there are other cards like Bubonic Vermin that sort of do this better, but this card still saw competitive success. It's cool because you can use it with Tyrant Dragon, and that's actually how people use them together in this interesting dragon deck. And all the dragon support is actually next to each other in this set, and there's a lot of it. Next up, the Dragon's Bead, Continuous Trap. Discard one card from your hand. Negate the effect of a trap card that targets one face-up dragon-type monster. That targets one face-up dragon-type monster and destroy the trap card. Man, Double Snare is most relevant in the sealed version of this format. It costs a discard every time, so it's not that bad. I think specifically because Bottomless is in this set, the card's not that bad. And I think we get Ring of Destruction next set. So there's going to be some pretty strong trap cards that the Dragon's Bead will actually negate if you decide to. Next up, a Wingbeat of Giant Dragon. Normal spell. Return one level 5 or higher dragon-type monster you control to the hand, and if you do, destroy all spell and trap cards on the field. So this card has seen competitive success, but it's mostly because Heavy Storm and Harpy's Feather Duster were banned, and Mystical Space Typhoon was at 1. And you did not have a ton of great options for spell and trap removal, and this one was not that bad. The card is interesting, I like it, but I don't think you should run it, especially since Harpy Feather Duster is at 1. Card to consider, maybe, if you could, maybe in GOAT format for one thing, but maybe if you could get some advantage over returning the dragon to hand, or if you got like a Cyber Dragon-like effect where it would special summon itself from hand, and then you'd bounce it, and then you'd special summon it again, that would be okay. I think it's just okay. Next one, though, Dragon's Gunfire might be a card to consider because I really like the design of Dragon's Gunfire. Normal spell. If you control a dragon monster, activate one of these effects. Inflict 800 points of damage to your opponent. Hey, that's Ukazi. Or target one monster with 800 or less defense. Destroy that target. So this actually functions like Burn does in Magic the Gathering, and I think that's really cool. Because in Burn, you can hit monsters, or I guess you could hit creatures in Magic, and it'd be soft removal, since it wouldn't be hard removal. I love the idea. I love the design space of Dragon's Gunfire. How you get both those options in Yu-Gi-Oh, but it's not that good. Possibly would let you recycle an effect on summon. Yeah, but at that point, there's a lot of other cards that are better payoffs for bouncing cards back to your hand, especially ones which would work on the first turn. Because you have a Wingbeat of Giant Dragon in your opening hand and you're going first, then it's no benefit. Next up, Stamping Destruction. If you control a dragon monster, target one spell or trap on the field, destroy that target. And if you do, inflict 500 points of damage to its controller. This card's real good. Like, meta. It's Hinotama plus Mystical Space Typhoon if you control a dragon. This card is actual spell and trap removal that is playable, despite having that little restriction. It's a burn card that doesn't go -1. It's a 1-for-1 burn card. I have no idea why, because it looks like they reverted the change, but at one point, Super Rejuvenation had this artwork where instead of red, it was blue. But this is the most recent version of the card, and I guess they reverted the change. But Super Rejuvenation, quick play spell. During the end phase of the turn this card was activated, draw a number of cards equal to the combined number of dragon monsters you discarded or tributed from your hand or field this turn. This card's crazy. I mean, it's one of the strongest draw spells in the game, and because it's a quick play spell, you can activate multiple copies in the end phase, so if you draw into another copy, then you could do more with it. There's a lot of very broken things that you can do with Super Rejuvenation, and I don't think the card will come off the ban list, even if there's not necessarily a deck that can use it. One of the craziest things you could do is armed dragons become really strong with this card. Just armed dragon level 5, discarding dragons, popping things, get them all back in the end phase. Real strong combo. It's at 3 already and doesn't see play. Is it really? Is Super Rejuvenation... Super Rejuvenation is back at 3? Wow. Huh. If it doesn't see play, then I think it's worth considering. The card's really strong. I like it. Without the dragon rulers, it doesn't do much. That might be fair. The dragon rulers were really, really strong. And finding other ways to discard or tribute dragons... Wait a second, you can run this in Hieratics. Super Rejuvenation in Hieratics is real strong. But I guess it's just worth considering today. I can see it in design mistake territory, but maybe the metagame and the card pool is not quite there yet. It's a design limiting card, to be sure. Next up, Dragon's Rage. Continuous trap. During battle between an attacking dragon-type monster you control and a defense position monster whose defense is lower than the attack of the attacking monster, inflict the difference as battle damage to your opponent. Wow. All your dragons get trample. That's okay. There's going to be a lot of outclass cards in this set. Next up, Burst Breath. Normal trap. Hey, this is the dragon from like the A Forces, I think. Pretty cool that we're seeing the same dragon. Anyway, normal trap. Tribute one dragon type monster. Destroy all face-up monsters in the field whose defense is less than or equal to the attack of the tributed monster had on the field. hey, this card's pretty cool. I think it's going to be good on release because this is blanket removal, but you also have like Dark Hole, you have Earthshaker, you have Raigeki, Tribute to the Doomed, Offerings to the Doomed. You're spoiled for choice. There's a lot of decent removal options, but Burst Breath is one of those weird options. Pineapple Blast is another one that comes to mind, but I don't think that card's printed quite yet. I think the card's decent. Next up, Luster Dragon number 2. I think this card was actually misprinted in the first printing, and it was just called Luster Dragon, which is a problem because Luster Dragon is a different card, and actually Luster Dragon's pretty far away. I think it's printed in the Dragon structure deck, the first one, Dragon's Rage or something. Wind Attribute, level 6, Dragon normal. This dragon feeds on Emerald. Ooh, very pricey. Enchanted by this monster, even when attacked, few people live to tell the tale of its beauty. Few people live to tell of its beauty. Wow, I can't read. 2400 attack, 1400 defense. It's very mediocre. Summon Skull just ate up so much design space and it's sad. Another normal monster, we have Robotic Knight. Fire Attribute, level 4, Machine. The commander of machine types. He serves the Machine King. He is famous for the way he controls his troops. 1600 attack, 1800 defense. That's not a bad total for stats, but I think we're just going to put it like next to Warrior Digrapher. Where is Machine King? I think it comes out in a set or two, maybe? Next up, we have Wolf Axe Wielder. I don't see a wolf, I see a rat. Earth Attribute, level 4, Beast Warrior. Once it has started battle, this monster attacks fiercely and cannot stop. Should be Wolf Berserker. 1650 attack, 1000 defense. Just put it in bad. Normal monsters don't get a free pass anymore. Next up, the Illusory Gentleman. Dark Attribute, level 4, Spellcaster. Wearing odd fashions. Boy, you got that right. This gentleman is very fickle. He sometimes saves people, and at other times commits crimes. 1500 attack, 1600 defense. Really cool artwork. I mean, I really like the artwork, but it's just not good. This is followed by Robo Lady, which I think is like rare metal Rady. Very nice flavor text. Yeah. Earth Attribute. Oh, I think that's referring to the Illusory Gentleman. Yeah, very nice flavor text. I like the design that's for Robo Lady and Robo Yarrow. It's cool, but it's not good yet. The Illusory Gentleman is inspiring fan fiction because we love chaotic neutral figures. Back to Robo Lady. Earth Attribute, level 3, Machine. A warrior fully covered with metal. It upgrades by fusing with Robo Yarrow. 450 attack, 900 defense. It's just bad. Might move some of these down. Speaking of which, Robo Yarrow. Earth Attribute, level 3, Machine. A warrior fully covered with metal. It upgrades by fusing with Robo Lady. 900 attack, 450 defense. Hey, that's the inverse of Robo Lady's stats. I can't wait to see what their fusion is like. Next up, Fiber Jar. Earth attribute, level 3, plant, flip effect. Flip. Each player shuffles all cards from their hand, field, and graveyard into the deck, then draws 5 cards. So it doesn't hit banished monsters, or it doesn't hit banished cards. 500 attack, 500 defense, 100% design mistake. This card is just so much advantage. Like, it doesn't sound like it, but you could activate Heat Wave on the first turn, set Fiber Jar, and then just restart the game. And it doesn't matter if you went -1. This card invalidates so much of your opponent's development. Even if the card is not useful, it's still ridiculous. I know Yatagarasu is at 1. That's why I know Yatagarasu is at 1. I still think it's a design mistake, and we had a very vigorous debate. It is completely fair to put it in meta at one point, but we're going to keep it here just because the legacy of Yatagarasu. I don't think it would see play. I don't think it sees play. It's not good anymore. It wasn't good when it was banned, but it's not good for the game. It's in principle. So this card is really weird. Like, the wiki keeps mentioning it over and over again because it's a very flexible card that has a horrible condition. Serpentine Princess is water attribute, level 4, reptile, effect. If this face-up card is returned from the field to your deck, select and special summon one level 3 or lower monster from your deck to your side of the field, then shuffle your deck. I guess Monster Recovery can trigger this? Like, you could go Monster Recovery, Serpentine Princess, tutor for any level 3, but is that useful? There will be something that breaks this card one day. I agree. Maybe I agree. It's a reptile. And reptiles are not exactly known for getting a good deal in the game. Theoretically, this card is actually pretty cool. There's just nothing to use it correctly right now, though. There's not a real strong benefit for it. Next up, Patrician of Darkness. So, not a plebeian of darkness. Patrician. Dark attribute, obviously, level 5. Zombie effect. You choose the attack targets of your opponent's attacks. 2000 attack, 1400 defense. Tempting to say design mistake because this card is confusing, but you have to choose valid targets for their attacks, I think is the big thing to understand about this card. And in that respect, it's okay. There are a bunch of inconsistent FTKs with Princess using Unicorn. Ooh. Make your opponent attack itself. No, you can't do that with Patrician of Darkness. The card would actually be literally broken at that point. There are some FTKs. I guess this is the most comfortable position for Serpentine Princess, though. Is that it's a gimmick. Patrician of Darkness was great in Playground format where people would make you attack your own monsters. Yep. Not in sanctioned play, though, and that's the main thing we're considering. Next up, Thunder Nyan Nyan, which is Nyan Nyan, Nyan Nyan, Nyan Nyan, Nyan Nyan, Nyan Nyan. Can't say it. Thunder Nyan Nyan. Light attribute, level 4, Thunder, effect. If there is a non-light monster on your side of the field, destroy this face-up card. 1900 attack, 800 defense. So, like, real strong stats, and that effect could be a plus, Creature Swap is released in this set. And you might think, filler outclassed. You might think good on release. This card's been in meta decks. And I think the main thing is you can give it to your opponent, and you take a monster, and then they get nothing. And I think that's funny. Keep in mind, when I say meta at one point, it's spanning from 2002 to current day, so there's a lot of room for cards to perform well. Sometimes it's in a super niche situation, but sometimes super niche is all it needs. Last set, we got Gradius. This one is Gradius's option. Gradius option. Light attribute, level 1. Machine, effect. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This monster can only be special summoned by selecting one face-up Gradius on your side of the field. The attack and defense of this card becomes the same as the attack and defense of the selected Gradius. If the selected Gradius is removed from the field, destroy this card. Question mark attack, question mark defense. I think this is the first time we got question marks in either of those slots. Hey, it special summons itself from hand. I guess you could unexpected die, get out Gradius, special summon 3 options from hand, and then do some link plays or something. It's not good, but it's not bad. Yeah, Gradius is another Konami game. I think the card Gradius is actually based on the Vic Viper is the name of the pilot or the ship. It's the Space Age shoot 'em ups. There's a whole bunch of cards. Stucker Mobile Cannon, the BES cards, Big Core, Boss Rush, ton of good stuff. I'm trying to do every Wednesday evening. Next up, Woodland Sprite. Earth attribute, level 3, plant, effect. Send 1 equip card equipped to this card to the graveyard. Inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent's life points. 900 attack, 400 defense. So this card doesn't destroy, thankfully. If this card did destroy the equip spell, instead of just sending it to the graveyard, it would mean an FTK with Butterfly Dagger Elma. And I think there are gimmicks that you can do with this card. You can get Sword of the Deep-Seated, and then 3 copies of Royal Magical Library, and then you can consistently draw Sword of the Deep-Seated and FTK that way. I don't know if that's good, but it is something that you can technically do. Do we count Duel Link for meta at one point? Nope. Just not going to say that Duel Links count because we're not looking at the evolution of the Duel Links card pool. It's a completely different card pool and a completely different rule set, actually. And it's got skill cards, and I don't think it's quite the same. Just going to say gimmick. I'm so glad it doesn't work with Butterfly Dagger Alma. That would have been a huge blunder. Next up, Air Knight Parshath. Light attribute, level 5, fairy, effect. If this card attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing battle damage. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, draw 1 card. 1900 attack, 1400 defense. It's level 5. I thought this was a level 4 when I pulled it out of a pack for the very first time, and then I traded it away because I then realized it was a level 5 and I couldn't just normal summon it. And I feel real bad because I had like one fresh out of the pack and I traded it. I think it's one of the reasons missing the timing exists because it would be an FTK with Archfiend of Gilfer. Interesting. What happens when you use Snatch Steal with it? That's a good question too. Solemn Johnson's avatar? I don't know who Solemn Johnson is. I don't think that rule existed before Woodland Sprite. I don't know. Maybe Woodland Sprite's secretly broken. But no debating Parshath. This card was meta. This card is like GOAT staple I wouldn't say it's the face of Goat, but this is the Goat Slayer. Next up, Twin-Headed Behemoth. Wind attribute, level 3, dragon, effect. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was destroyed on the field and sent there this turn, you can special summon this card, but its attack and defense become 1000. You can only use this effect of Twin-Headed Behemoth once per duel. 1500 attack, 1200 defense. This card was limited at one point, specifically because it needed effect changing errata to make sure that you couldn't special summon, you couldn't shuffle it into the deck or lose track of which one had the effect active. So I guess you could say that this card was a design mistake since it has effect changing errata, but I think it's more like problem solving rules text more than anything. Otherwise, the card was real good. This card sets up really well for a tribute. Like you'd set Twin-Headed Behemoth, or you might even summon it. It gets destroyed. You don't care. Next turn, you can tribute for a big monster. Now we're getting into the Spirit block. It is indeed one of the first once per duel effects, and it is out of necessity. First up, Maharagi. Earth attribute, level 4, rock, spirit. This card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned or flipped face up. If this card is normal summoned or flipped face up, look at one card on the top of the deck during your next draw phase before you draw, and return to the card to the top or the bottom of your deck. 1200 attack, 1700 defense. So there's a keyword for this effect in Magic, and it's called Scry, and this would effectively be Scry 1. And that's just not a very strong effect. I'd much prefer to just draw a card. It does look like Orichalcos Sonoros. In fact, they actually have the same inspiration. Orichalcos, Sonoros, and Dogu, the card Dogu, are all based off of the Japanese Dogu. And they're these weird little statues that people have been finding in Japan. Yeah, spirit monsters all have the same background. And it's because that's like the spirit world or the yokai world. And there's even a couple spirit related cards, like Spirit's Invitation has it. I think Inazami might have it despite not being a spirit, but I might have the wrong card name. I mean, the artwork at this point is on point. Next up, Inaba White Rabbit, based off of the Inaba no Usagi yokai. Earth attribute, level 3, beast, spirit. It's got the normal spirit text, which is this card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned or flip face up. This monster attacks your opponent's life points directly. Ooh, it's mandatory. 700 attack, 500 defense. That's like the best direct attacker at this point. And yeah, this card saw some meta success. Gets under Gravity Bind and just pokes them. Next up, Susa Soldier. This is based off the yokai / character Susanoo. Earth attribute, level 4, Thunder, Spirit. Got the normal spirit text. This monster cannot be special summoned. This monster returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned / flip summoned or flipped face up. Whew. The battle damage this card inflicts to your opponent's life points is halved. 2000 attack, 1600 defense. I think this is a pretty appropriate power level. It's not great. I guess we'll put it right next to Cave Dragon. Susanoo is actually a god, yeah. And he's related to Amaterasu, and there's a whole yokai story. And it's a little crazy. But we're not doing a lore video, and we're not doing a Japanese mythology / history video. Instead, we're talking about Yamata Dragon, which is, I think it's actually the same root as the word Yamato for, like, Japan. Anyway, this card is based off of the dragon that Hino Kagutsuchi slays in that story, but we're not doing a lore video. Fire attribute, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Very high for a spirit. Dragon, spirit. This card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned or flipped face up. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, draw cards from your deck until you have 5 cards in your hand. Wow. Cannot read. 2600 attack, and then 3100 defense. That's a lot of defense points. I think that actually might be the strongest defense mode monster we have at this point. Well, I take that back. We got like Gate Guardian and Valkyrie, but like one that you could normal summon or set. Draw up to 5 cards. Very enticing. This card saw a little bit, like a tiny bit, of meta experimentation. Keep in mind, these are really old formats. Being a level 7 really kills it, I agree. But it's been in meta decks just because that ceiling is so high. Next up, Great Long Nose. Dark attribute, level 5. This one's based off of a Tengu, and if you actually look at the OCG artwork, the nose is even bigger. It's more conventionally Tengu shaped too. Beast Warrior, Spirit. I guess this is... oh, it's level 5, not a Tenki. Target. This card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned or flipped face up. If this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points, your opponent skips their next battle phase. 1900 attack, 1700 defense. I think this card is just bad. I don't think it's worth playing. It's cool that it affects the battle phase, at least. It's real cool from a flavor level as far as what Tengu are in Japanese mythology, but it's level 5. If it were at level 4, I think it'd be okay. But you really don't want a tribute for that one. Next up, Otohime. Light attribute, level 3. Spellcaster, Spirit. Cannot be special summoned. During the end phase of the turn this card is normal summoned or flipped face up. Return it to the hand. When this card is normal summoned or flipped face up, you can target one monster. You can target one face up monster your opponent controls. Change that target's battle position. 0 attack, 1000 defense. I think this is just very bad. Like, that effect is so underwhelming. Also, Japan got the superior artwork. It took me so long to realize that you are not the dual logs. Well, thank you? I'm gonna take that as a compliment, whether intended or otherwise. I remember watching him when he was like 2,000 subscribers, but now it's all the lists. Like, all the top 10 lists. Next up, Hino Kagutsuchi. Fire attribute, level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, even more than the Yamata Dragon. Pyro, Spirit. This card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand. During the end phase of the turn, it is normal summoned or flipped face up. If this card inflicts battle damage to the opponent, they discard all cards in their hand during the next draw phase before they draw. 2800 attack, 2900 defense. So this guy slays Yamato Dragon, but I think he's not as good as Yamato Dragon. I think you'd much prefer to refill your hand over discard your opponent's. Thanks. I work hard on the videos and I'm really enjoying it. I'm so excited for the one that hopefully comes out Friday. Another impactful spirit, we have Asura Priest. This is one of the things that you can be reincarnated to in Hinduism, I think. It's light attribute, level 4. Fairy, spirit, cannot be special summoned. During the end phase of the turn, this card is normal summoned or flip face up. Return it to the hand. This card can attack all monsters your opponents control once each. 1700 attack, 1200 defense. So you can just run through boards with this. You could break through a lot of your opponent's defenses. Like, they swarm with goat tokens, they have troop dragon, they have twin-headed behemoth, they have a lot of little things, and you can just hit them all with Asura Priest. This card has been in a lot of metagames. Next up, Fushi no Tori. Fire attribute, level 4, winged beast, spirit. This card cannot be special summoned. This card returns to the owner's hand during the end phase of the turn that this card is normal summoned or flip face up. When this card inflicts battle damage to the opponent's life points, increase your life points by the amount equal to the battle damage. 1200 attack, 0 defense. That's just, I don't like that at all. I think this card is just bad. Like, the idea of a draining effect is okay, but it's got 1200 attack points. You're not gonna be doing anything with it. Ooh, Asura Priest plus Honest. Oh yeah. I think Lighted Destruction 2008. When we get to 2008, that's a good combo. Okay. But in the meantime, we got Super Robo Lady. Very cool design. We have Earth Attribute, level 6, Machine, Fusion, Effect. Materials are Robo Lady and Robo Yarrow. You can special summon Super Robo Yarrow by returning this card from the field to the Fusion deck. You cannot use this effect during the same turn this monster is special summoned. In addition, increase the attack of the monster by 1000 points during your damage. Increase the attack of this monster by 1000 points during the damage step when this monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points. That is so specific. I understand the idea behind it. The robo cards are thankfully a little bit future-proofed. If you could just keep tagging out between the two over and over again, it would be overpowered because you could potentially do a lot of damage against your opponent. I think there's a trap card that would just deal unlimited damage in that combo. So good future proofing on the robo cards, but they're not good. They're really cool. I love seeing like Gladiator Beast before Gladiator Beast. I love how this fusion is two different types, and you could go into either Super Robo Lady or Super Robo Yarrow. Really cool design, but not good. Anyway, Super Robo Yarrow. This is like Rare Metal Knight in Japanese, and Robo Yarrow was just Metal Soldier. Cool Japanese names too. Anyway, stop stalling. Super Robo Yarrow, Earth Attribute, level 6, Machine, Fusion, Effect. Materials are again Robo Yarrow, Robo Lady. This time they're reversed though. You can special summon Super Robo Lady by returning this card from the field to the Fusion deck. You cannot use this effect during the same turn this monster is special summoned. In addition, increase the attack of this monster by 1000 points during the damage step when this monster inflicts direct damage to your opponent's life points. 1200 attack, 500 defense. Ooh, It does say fusion deck. So where do they go now? If there is no fusion deck, there's only the extra deck. I guess there's no reprint since the first printing of Super Robo Yarrow. Very silly. Next up, Feng Sheng Mirror. Normal spell. Look at your opponent's hand. Select and discard one spirit monster on the select and discard one spirit monster to the graveyard if spirit monsters exist in his or her hand. Yeah, this I think just being able to look at your opponent's hand, not necessarily to disrupt them in any way, but just getting the information, I think that's enough to consider this card in the metagame. I know that's a bit of a weird take, but I stand by it. Card to consider, Curse Seal of Forbidden Spell. It's a counter trap. It's a little slow. Next up, Spring of Rebirth. Continue a spell. Increase your life points by 500 points every time monsters return from the field to the owner's hand. Hey, theoretically this card's good with all the spirit monsters, but it's just not enough. It's not very much. Actually, I guess we'll put it right next to Fatal Abacus because they're sort of similar. This is followed by the Heart of Clear Water. Equip spell. If the equipped monster's attack is 1300 points or higher, this card is destroyed. The monster equipped with this card is not destroyed as a result of battle, or by the effect of a card that targets them, or by effect of a card that targets the monster. Damage calculation is applied normally. I don't understand the point of this card. I really don't understand the point of this card. I guess your defensive cards are a little bit better. It's like a worse version of Power of the Guardians. I think it's a worse version than a lot of cards. I think this card is a worse version of Mist Body. Of course, Mist Body, it's like Mist Body plus rare silver armor. I think it might be rare gold armor, but just not good. Next up, a Legendary Ocean. Field spell. This card is always treated as Umi, so don't be cheating. I know I was when I was a kid. I'd have actual Umi, and I'd have a Legendary Ocean, and I think I even got like Lemuria at one point in my deck because I kept needing more copies of Umi. All water monsters on the field gain 200 attack and defense. Reduce the level of all water monsters in both players' hands and on the field by 1. This card's real good. It's not necessarily on the level of metagame, but there's a lot of fun stuff that you can do with the Legendary Ocean in this time period. SDD, DOR, LOD. So that stands for Stairway to the Destined Duel. Duelist of the Roses and Legacy of Darkness cards. Ooh, Heart of Clear Water was actually used in Inzectors? Interesting. I guess we put Heart of Clear Water in Gimmick then. So Warrior of Atlantis searches for a Legendary Ocean, but since it's always Umi, it actually names a card that doesn't exist? That's not supposed to be how that works. Why doesn't Warrior of Atlantis search for Umi? I'm glad it's stirring a whole bunch of nice childhood memories. Ooh, it's actually seeing rogue play right now because of the new Mako Tsunami Legacy support. Okay. I guess we put it in meta, or at least worth considering. Jesse, I have a random fact that really is random. Okay, let's hear it. Sparks was in Tag Force 3, and I think 2 also. Meta. If you drew Sparks in class, you win instantly since your opponent would never have more than 200 life points. I don't know if it's funny that Sparks was good at one point, even though it was a video game. Really? Only 200? Was it like instant death duel? Anyway, Fusion Sword Marusame Blade. Equip spell. Equip only to a warrior monster. Gains 800 attack. While equipped to a monster, this card cannot be destroyed by card effects. Hey, it gives itself partial immunity. I've actually seen this card in a meta deck list, which is interesting. 800 points is not a ton, but it protects itself, and I think that's cool. The duel starts in the middle of a duel. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. Warrior can still add a legendary ocean, if I remember correctly. There's a specific ruling for that, I think. I think it's just an oversight, and it's funny. Next up, Smoke Grenade of the Thief. When this equip spell is active and destroyed by a card effect, look at your opponent's hand, select one card from their hand, and discard it to the graveyard. So, this card's sort of game-breaking, because this card is Confiscation in certain decks. And Confiscation is a very poorly designed card. Also, Murasame Blade is good in Benkei OTK. Yeah, it is good in Benkei. It's definitely been in the metagame at least once. I know I've seen it. Same thing with Creature Swap. Normal spell. Each player chooses one monster they control and switches control of those monsters with each other. Those monsters cannot change their battle positions for the rest of the turn. I don't know if you play Creature Swap today. This card's fun. I like Creature Swap. I agree. Smoke Grenade got banned in 2020 because there are multiple decks that could get it off. But even if you have like just Gearfried the Iron Knight, Black Pendants, Smoke Grenades, Fuma Shuriken. Oh, you can't activate Fuma Shuriken, but you get the point. Butterfly Dagger Elma. There are ways to make the card dirty. And I think it's a pretty safe call to call it a design mistake. Next up, Spirit Energy Settle Machine. Continue a spell. As long as this card remains face up on the field, all spirit monsters remain face up on the field and do not return to their owner's hands during the end phase, even if they are normal summoned or flipped face up. That is very redundant text. Discard one card from your hand during each of your end phases. If you do not, destroy this card. When this card is removed from the field, all face up spirit monsters return to the owner's hands. I can't tell if this is spirit support or anti-spirit support. But card's not good either way. Plus that maintenance cost is pretty expensive. Next card, Second Coin Toss. Continue a spell. When a coin toss is performed, you can choose to redo the coin toss. If the toss involved multiple coin flips, redo all of them. You can only use the effect of Second Coin Toss once per turn. Yeah, Second Coin Toss is that old. I think Dice Reroll is much newer by comparison. I guess Gimmick is just the only place where it can be. This card is the Gimmick enabler. But it's actually pretty cool. We get to see the Goblin of Greed a couple times in this set. Next up, Convulsion of Nature. Continue a spell. As long as this card remains face up on the field, Both players must turn their respective decks upside down and proceed with the current duel. I mean, is this not the definition of the tier gimmick? I know this card was meta at one point. I know what you can do. You can use Gishki Diviner. You can use Archfiend's Oath. I think Archfiend's Oath. Name the top card on your deck, pay 500 life points, draw a card over and over again. Really strong, really dumb. I guess you could card shuffle and then slowly get to Exodia that way with Convulsion of Nature. This card is super gimmick. Also, this card on Dueling Network would just cause you to have an instant win, because no one would want to be banishing every card in their deck for it to work. The artwork looks kind of fake. I can agree with that. Next up, The Secret of the Bandit, or the actual Spanish name for this card is El Secreto del Bandito. That's just, I don't know why, but that makes me laugh. Normal spell. This card can only be activated during main phase 1. Select one face-up monster on the field. Each time the selected monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent's life points this turn, your opponent discards one random card. I don't think this is a good card. I don't like it. I guess you could use it with Grey Wing or your Asura Priest and it would be okay. I guess you could use it with a direct attacker and get one attack off and go 1-for-1 against your opponent. This is a card that does discard cards from your opponent's hand, which is usually a real strong effect. Yeah, Lyralusk could use it. Watts could use it. I think like Watt Hydra can do multiple attacks maybe. There are definitely ways that you could abuse this card. I just don't think it's good. The modern rarities in the game look like the fake rarities from the flea market. Yeah, I can agree with that. Like the Mosaic and the Starfoil look like those rares. I guess at best we could say filler outclassed or maybe even good on release. I don't know. El Secreto del Bandito is an enigma. Next up, After the Struggle. Well, at least that's what the printed card is. It actually says After the Genocide. After the errata. I think this is the first erratum that I've ever seen is a reference to this card being named After the Genocide. It doesn't affect the card in any way. It's just the first one I was ever exposed to. Normal spell. This card can only be activated during main phase 1. All monsters on both sides of the field that have been involved in damage calculation are destroyed during the end phase of the turn. This card is a magic card artwork-wise, yeah? This card is sorta give all creatures death touch. I'm just gonna say filler effect. Do I like the Cheesecake Factory? No, I'm afraid of it. Ooh. So El Secreto del Bandito with Lear Lusk, Assembled Nightingale. Okay, that could pull some weight. Next up, Magic Reflector. Normal spell. Target one face-up spell card you control. Place one counter on it. If it would be destroyed, remove the counter instead. You're using a card for this effect, though. So you're protecting your spell card one time by using up a spell card. I can't wrap my head around it. Like, Magic Jammer exists. Rare Yoko Field exists. There are some later cards, like I think Curse of Aegon, good in Exodia, maybe? I don't think it's worth it. Maybe you could sort of use it like field barrier. If it were a spell counter, it'd be okay. I don't know. Yeah, and it's just a random counter. It's not a specific one. Next up, Equip Trap. Blast with Chain. It's actually a normal trap, but the manga, I think, had Equip Traps. Target one face-up monster you control. Equip this card to the target. It gains 500 attack. If this card is destroyed by a card effect while equipped, target one card on the field. Destroy that target. I think this is another one that you can abuse with Gearfried the Iron Knight. But another one that you can pop, but this one's a trap, so it's not nearly as good. Didn't stop the card from being meta, though. That this is just solid removal in certain circumstances. It's also just an upgrade over reinforcements, because permanent attack gain, that doubles as removal. Next up, very underwhelming card, Disappear. Normal trap, remove from play one card from your opponent's graveyard. It's just, it does not impact the game. It's just so minor. It's followed by Bubble Crash, normal trap. This card can only be activated when when any player has 6 or more cards on the field and in. I cannot read. This card can only be activated when this card can only be activated when any player has 6 or more cards on the field and or in their hand. The players then select and send cards to their respective graveyards until the amount remaining on the field and in their hand is 5. Is this card like evenly matched but really, really old? I mean, it's not bad. I know this card was meta at one point, like specifically against spellbooks and super rejuvenation, that you could capitalize off of them having so many cards. But it just reminds me of bad evenly matched. Next up, Royal Oppression. Continuous trap. Either player can pay 800 life points to negate the special summon of a monster's and or an effect that special summons a monster's and destroy those cards. Oh yeah, this card's amazing. So, what's crazy is that no one realized the potential of this card for years. Don't bring back Royal Oppression, it's one-sided. If it were a spell card and it said, activate only during your main phase 1, it'd still be really overpowered, but it wouldn't be as overpowered. Because you go first, you set up, and then you prevent your opponent from doing anything. Card's amazing. Plus, it's a choice. I mean, it is theoretically good, but not fair. Next up, Bottomless Trap Hole. Normal trap. When your opponent summons a monster with 1500 or more attack, destroy that monsters with 1500 or more attack, and if you do, banish it. So Bottomless actually doesn't hit some of the things that you think it does because it destroys and then it banishes. Bottomless is one of the targets for Rafflesia, since it's a trap hole. I think it's still worth considering. I mean, it's not necessarily the best trap hole. That one's obviously Gemini trap hole, but it's still a good trap hole. There's also Giant Trap Hole and DD Trap Hole, Acid Trap Hole. Deep Dark Trap Hole. There's a whole bunch of them. I don't know which ones are worth considering. Spoiled for choice with Rafflesia. Samochi is my favorite card. This burn concept really blew me away in the days. Yeah, well, let's see. Bad reaction to Samuchi. Continuous trap. As long as this card remains face up on the field, any effect of increasing your opponent's life points is changed to inflict the same amount of points in damage to your opponent's life points. Bit awkward in the wording. This card is a lot of fun. This card's been meta. Nurse Refocule, I think, and Samuchi is enough to make Nurse Burn good. I don't think this card is healthy for the game, though. I think from a purely competitive standpoint, you might still play this card. You might still play Nurse Burn. I don't think it's healthy for the game, though. Very cool card, though. Very cool flavor. Next up, Ominous Fortune Telling. Continuous trap. During your standby phase, select one random card from your opponent's hand. Ooh, information. Call the type of the card, monster, spell, or trap. If you call it right, inflict 700 points of damage to your opponent's life points. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, this actually was sorta information. It's not anymore, though, because of change of mechanics. Since it doesn't say that you reveal the card to confirm, it means that you just take your opponent's word for it, I think. Or an independent judge will comment on it. Without Mystic Mind, though, it's really hard to play, to be honest. With bad reaction to Samochi, I agree. Samochi turns trade cards like Upstart Goblin and Soul Taker into amazing burn cards. It does. But it's not easy in Master Duel, apparently. I think this is okay. We'll put it next to Fatal Abacus. It's about that level of play. I guess if your opponent's not expecting it, you just win on game one, Nurse Burn. Makes sense. Next up, Spirit's Invitation. Continuous trap. Very, very cool artwork. You got Dark Dust Spirit. Oh, Dark Dust Spirit isn't even in the set, though. It's like foreshadowing. And you got someone pulling him back into the spirit world. Each time your spirit monster returns to the hand, select one monster in your opponent's side of the field and return it to the owner's hand. Pay 500 life points during each of your standby phases. If you do not, destroy this card. So, another optional maintenance effect, I think. I'm just going to say this is not good. Theoretically, it's very interesting that your opponent has the same restraint that you do, but it's just not impactful enough. Next up, Nutrient Z. This is like the most efficient healing card for quite some time. Normal trap. This card can only be activated during your opponent's damage step. During this turn, if you take battle damage of 2,000 points or more, increase your life points by 4,000 points before the damage is subtracted from your life points. Oh, this card has had errata, and I did not realize it, making it just bad. How much life points off of a life point gain card is making it worth a -1? Well, more than 4,000 it seems. Next up, Drop Off. Normal trap. When your opponent draws for their normal draw in their draw phase, very specific, your opponent discards one card they just drew. And the text is a little bit weird. You think, oh, your opponent only draws one card during their draw phase, but no. There are some draw replacement effects like Guarded Treasure that means that this card has to be worded that awkwardly. That your opponent discards one card they just drew. How good is Drop Off? Well, Drop Off is meta. Or Drop Off was meta. Not as good as Drastic Drop Off, but just 1-for-1 hand disruption was strong enough to see play in certain metagames, especially if you were like playing gadgets and you could just out advantage your opponent, then drop off is really appealing. Next up, Fiend Comedian, and we got the beautiful OCG artwork for this one. Like, I really want the OCG artwork in the TCG. And this is another card that I've considered. There are decks. I have been told in the comments that this card is actually still worth considering because there are decks that can take advantage of it, and it is a really strong disruption tool when you can get it off. But what does it do? Fiend Comedian, normal trap, toss a coin and call it. Hey, second coin toss could help you out there. If you call it right, all your opponent's cards in the graveyard are removed from play immediately. If you call it wrong, send a number of cards equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyard from your deck to the graveyard. Whew. So this card has 2 upsides. Really weird that they'd choose to do that. It is waiting to be busted open. I mean, this card is sort of like that grass looks greener mixed with End of Anubis or Necro Valley or some other really strong disruption, graveyard disruption. Yeah, Fiend Comedian is 2 upsides that you don't get to choose between. Home stretch. In fact, we're almost at the last card. But right now, the penultimate card is Last Turn, mainly because there's secret rares in the set. Normal trap. This card can only be activated during your opponent's turn when your life points are 1,000 or less. Select 1 monster on the field and send all other cards on the field and in their respective owners' hands to their respective graveyards. After that, your opponent selects and special summons 1 monster from his or her deck in face-up attack position and attacks your selected monster. Any battle damage from the attack is treated as 0. The player whose monster remains alone on the field at the end phase of this turn wins the duel. Any other cases results in a draw. Whew. I mean, it's pretty hard to argue that this is a design mistake. At one point, you could have Jalgan the Spiritualist on your side of the field, and then your opponent wouldn't be able to special summon a monster, and you just win there. But this card is broken for all sorts of different reasons. But it seems like a fair and well-designed card from Mystic Miner, of course. I mean, anyone who's a big fan of Mystic Mine, big fan of Last Turn, expert in fair and well-balanced cards. Last Turn does not describe what it does clearly enough on the card. There's a 10-page Google Doc that explains exactly what the card does. Or, as Mihe? Or as Mahi says, fundamentally broken. Oh, what is going on in the artwork? Well, actually, we can tell. It is Hino Kagutsuchi fighting the Yamada Dragon based on the legend, and he actually wins his fight against the Yamada Dragon and retrieves the sword Kusanagi, I think? Yeah, it's part of Japanese folklore. Very cool. The spirits are some of the coolest cards in the game. I also like how both of the cards featured in the artwork are in this set. Very, very tight theming. In fact, a whole bunch of the cards in this set reference each other, and it's just real pretty. Last card in the set, Injection Fairy Lily. Earth attribute, level 3, spellcaster, effect. If this card attacks or is attacked during damage calculation in either player's turn, you can pay 2,000 life points. Once per battle, this card gains 3,000 attack until 3,000 attack during that damage calculation only. 400 attack, 1,500 defense, And we're ending on a high note because this card is ridiculous and meta for quite some time and even hit the FNL list at one point. Just get over anything. Ah, pronunciation is Mihei. It is sad we haven't gotten more spirit support. Injection Fairy Lily is such a good card for legacy formats. It is one of the best giant rat targets. I'd argue that Exiled Force is right up there next to it. In fact, we'll put Exiled Force right up there next to it. But it's real good. This card is super funny though, because like you could get over towers with it. Apoclefort Towers. There are a few other niche uses, but it is just really funny. It's summonable by Debris Dragon. I guess you could summon it with Debris Dragon and get over something. I guess you get over something and then you bring it out with Debris Dragon and then you make Black Rose. What I think is better is what is it? King of the Swamp is summonable by Debris Dragon, and that's another one because it's also level 3 and you can make a nice Black Rose with that, but that one likes to discard itself. But Diamond Crab King. Using Diamond Crab King to get over towers, yeah. I'm glad you liked it, Mystic Miner. Okay. But that's the end of the list. Looks like this set was actually really strong. When half the set isn't normal monsters, it looks like, well, all the normal monsters ended up pretty low. But the distribution looks really good for this set. I'd say a third of the set, maybe even half the set, was actually decent. But I'm signing off for the night. Good stream. Really enjoyed it. And hopefully next Wednesday. Hopefully something on Friday too, but that's a secret for now. Good night, Mihei. Ooh. Oh, no way. No way. Possessed Dark Soul saw play in Burning Abyss. I think that puts it in very small meta niche. I think that's fair. Thank you, Jace. Now, actual good night.